Hey there, welcome to another episode of the American Dream Builder and Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Missy Liu. Today in episode 19, we'll have a special guest, Mark Schuler. He's not only a friend, but also a real estate investor, very experienced one, in fact. Apart from his real estate investing experience, he also has his architectural background as well. Combined together, he's had over 38 years of career. He has not only provided designs, engineering services to literally hundreds of homeowners, builders, developers, numerous awards as architect, but also during 2014, whenever he founded SGRA Investments, he has now owned a little bit more than $500 million worth of assets under management through real estate syndications, which is a concept we've talked in previous episodes. If you don't know, I recommend you check it out because it is a powerful tool to really win back your time and also grow your wealth and your freedom goals through this journey. So we have two episodes for Mark, episode 19 and 20. Episode 19 focuses more on his personal journey, some of the limiting beliefs that he had to work through and his struggles he had to work through to get to where he is today. And episode 20 more focuses on how he's planning on his retirement after 3-4 decades of hard work. So both are great episodes, and I hope you're enjoying. Let's dive in. I know Mark, you bring a lot of experiences and also the experience through multiple recessions as well. Is there anything in the bio that I mentioned or may have misread that you would like to cover?
I think you pretty well covered it. Yeah, just unlike a lot of people who pivot into real estate, I've been in it my whole career, and I've always been fascinated with it. Everybody in my family is in it. I have 5 family members who are commercial brokers. My kid brother manages one of the largest accounting firms in the country, and he's their real estate guy. He has a whole team of literally hundreds of people who work for him just on real estate deals nationwide. So it's kind of a family biz. And it was sort of a natural pivot for me to migrate into this space.
Yeah, and it's awesome you had that background, leveraging all your skill set previously as well. And we talked about this before. Our main target audience for our podcast and listeners have been first and second generation immigrants and also just busy professionals in general. And a lot of us come from kind of more of a humble beginnings. And when we talked, you mentioned to me that even though you have a little bit over $500 million worth of assets under management now, but you came from humble beginning with a blue collar background.
Oh, yeah.
And you built essentially the American dream throughout multiple times as well. So can you tell me a little bit more about your background in that area? And we can talk through some of the pivoting points. And hopefully we can pick up some lessons for our listeners as well.
Yeah. And like you, Missy, I'm a 13th generation American, but that doesn't mean it. You know, just because I've been here a long time or my family roots go back a long ways here, we were still, we weren't dirt poor or anything like that coming up, but we were definitely blue collar. I'm born and raised in Detroit, and my uncles and my mom's side of the family all worked in the automobile industry, which is a euphemism for working in a factory. Detroit's a pretty tough town, and I quickly surmised that if I ever wanted to move forward with my life and have something different as an outcome, that I needed to do a few things, which was one, I had to get out of Detroit. It's the largest city in the country to go bankrupt. That you could see coming for about 50, 60 years. It was a very mismanaged place. But more importantly, I think the ticket up for me was I figured out really from a young age that education was what I needed to accomplish to get ahead. That without education in this country, and that can be at any level, you just weren't going to go anywhere. I know that I didn't want to be just a laborer for the course of my career. Now, I know people that graduate with a high school diploma, and then I know several peers of my stepson, for instance, who are not college educated or not graduates of college, but they went to trade schools. And my stepson now, who was an at-risk youth during high school, is tearing apart high-end Audis and putting them back together, and he's making 6 figures a year. But he had to learn that he had to go on and get further education past high school. And it was a real struggle for him until he finally snapped together and figured it out. And it's that hockey stick growth, that metaphor that we kick around. He was on this growth pattern, and I could see the skills that he had. But it was apparent. It was really satisfying to see him just pull it all together and doing really well in his life now. So I went through the same growth path.
Hmm.
I had to get out of high school. I went to college, which is one of the first in my family to do so. Decided not to get a liberal arts degree, which is probably one of the better decisions I ever made. Got a technical degree, professional degree, and I've been working professionally since I was 26 years old. So that was a combination of realizing what I had to do, but also fortunate that I found something early in life that could sustain my interest. And then I finally figured out, oh man, I can like monetize this and make a career out of this.
Got it.
So, and from there, it's just ballooned out. So,
Hmm. It's very similar to a lot of the first and second generation immigrants when we come to this country. I think there's typically two paths people think through. One is through education, which is what you mentioned, whether
yeah,
it's high school, college, or just learning on the job or starting a business of some sort, which you kind of went through the path of both. First generation college student in your case is not
yeah,
easy to break through that barrier. That's typically the hardest. Like you have paved a path for, your
it was
future
incredibly hard.
generations.
It was really
Yeah.
hard because you
You're
have
making
all
the
that
hard work.
emotional turmoil while you're going to school, the pretender syndrome or the fear of success. The one thing I had going for me, I was always really pretty smart. And I mean, that wreaked havoc with me for years and years. It took something for me to overcome all that. And you just get enough meat on your bones and experience in life, you figure it out. But man, when you're going through it, it just feels traumatic. So,
It does, especially when you're trying to break through also socioeconomic class.
yes,
It's quite different. And then people around you, they're from a different class. So sometimes their thought process about money and wealth and freedom, it's a lot different than what you want to be.
they take it for granted. And
Yeah.
I couldn't take it for granted. And it was confusing, to put it that way.
Yeah, America has definitely been a land of opportunity for many of us, whether it's 200-300 years ago or even further beyond or to today. But as you come to a new environment, whether from architecture to real estate, even though you were in kind of similar field or breaking through with this new first generation college student, you probably had to overcome a lot of limiting beliefs, I would assume, whether it's through within you or around you. How did you work through that? Because I think that's some of the things I have to constantly work through. Sometimes I think I'm over certain things, but I'm like, oh, that's also a limiting belief. And sometimes I'm not even aware of it until someone pointed out to me.
One of the big advantages I had in life, it may sound silly, but my dad was an Air Force officer. So discipline, honor, integrity, and hard work were really instilled in me from a young age. So I have a real strong work ethic, as do all my brothers. And in a way, I mean, one of the points that I was noodling on before we got on here is goal setting. And we'll get into that in a minute. It can really that work ethic, that almost sort of obsessive work ethic that drives me. I mean, really, that's what propelled me forward. And I didn't really slow down enough in life at times to smell the roses, but also give myself time to even like worry about whether I can do this or not. It's like, I just got to figure it out. I just have to figure it out. I don't have a choice. I mean, I don't have a silver spoon and I don't have an inheritance waiting for me at the end of my life. I mean, you make choices. Okay. And I chose to pursue a professional path so that I had a steady income. I'm not wired to work in large organizations either. And so the corporate thing was not going to work for me. I figured that out like when I was in my 20s, my early 20s. It's like, I am not going to do this. So you just kind of make a choice and then you see what array of choices are available beyond that choice. And it sounds kind of cliche, but you make one choice, some doors close and new ones open. That's how I have experienced my life. But overarching throughout all of that, it kind of set a vision for what I wanted my life to be. And, I am not good with trophies. I don't need toys. I don't need cars. I don't need any of this stuff. I'm mainly an ideas guy. So as long as had a stable roof over my head and I could pay the bills, I was generally a pretty happy guy. I was able to buy the American dream. I owned my house, bought a bunch of other buildings, finally got into that. But I didn't set my sights on acquiring toys. So that was another big advantage that I had is like, I drive an 8-year-old. I did finally graduate to an Acura, but my other side vehicle was a 30 or 20-year-old Ford Ranger. And man, it looks silly. I drive up to a client's house and I'm driving this stupid old Ford Ranger. And it's like, yeah, maybe I ought to improve my image. Maybe not. Take care, So, but I will say that I've had a combination of hard work and some luck in my life, which I think everybody has. And we all can make choices. So if I don't leave or impart any other wisdom in this conversation, I just think that anybody has choices available to them, and you make good choices, you make stupid choices,
Yeah.
but you got to man up and own them. And a lot of people think life happens to them. I've never thought life happens to me. I've always thought I'm going to make my life what I want it to be. And so it's a more proactive approach to life that I developed. So
Yeah.
I'm not a good complainer.
Yeah, I believe in similar things. It's really a series of cause and effect, and
Yeah.
we kind of have to eat our own fruit, no matter how tasty, bitter that
Make
might.
your own bed.
Yeah. Even and then with the question on limiting beliefs, it's really about. I think what I've come to know you is about you. You like to put in the hard work and just go through learning and figure it out. I think there's a lot of real estate people out there that's just making huge bogus claims sometimes. And
Yeah.
I feel like you're in the opposite of that. That's why I really enjoy having all the conversations with you, even prior to this call.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk in the real
Yeah.
estate industry, and a lot of would-be alpha personalities. I just met with somebody earlier today and we were talking about that. And I said, look, I need to filter all that out. Just filter out all that white noise and stay focused on what you have to do. And you can put together a 6, 12, 18-month priority list of what you have to accomplish, but just don't get distracted by all the white noise, especially in this industry, because it's an industry based on relationships and personalities.
Yeah. Even if you are not in the real estate full time, I think the advice you gave applies to people in other industries as well. I mean, including the artwork. And sometimes some people remember, and sometimes people forget it and get away from that concept. But I'm sure you've also worked through challenges in your life.
I've got great stories. I was a millionaire at 45 and bankrupt at 48.
Well, what happened there?
I got divorced right at the Great Recession.
Mm.
And my mom got sick, and that was all in a 6-month period.
Wow, that was a lot to take on for one person.
The stress was off the hook.
What did you learn about risk management, and also did your concept around money change throughout that experience or those experiences?
Yeah, that's when I really pivoted full-time into real estate. It took me a few years, but what I committed to coming out of that experience was I was never going to go back into that experience in my entire life. I was never going to let that happen to me again. And so that's when I started doing real estate deals. Probably the best decision. First of all, it was probably the best experience I ever went through because it forced me to make a decision. I had been on the fence. I have an advanced degree in real estate development. I got it back in like 2002. And here it is, 2013, 14, and I'm finally putting it to use. And look, life gets in the way, and it just took me a little bit longer than I anticipated. But once I jumped in, I was in full time. I was all in. The hardest part of real estate, it can be distilled down to one word: commitment. And it's the kind of endeavor where you can't play halfway. You either are in or you're not. And trying to play the game as a part-time bystander, you can do that. If that's what you want to do, you should just be an investor in a deal. I have a pretty controlling personality, so I want to be the quarterback. And so just being an LP in a deal was never going to satisfy me. Also, it's just not challenging enough for me. I like challenge. So I sponsor my own deals now. And believe me, that brings a whole set of gut-wrenching challenges of its own. I'm not sure I'm going to be doing it much longer because I'm setting different goals in my life now. So,
yeah, that's another part I'd love to dive into as well. But I understand what you're saying. There's only so much time you have. So as a passive investor, or as other people have to think about how to spend our time still, whether it's passive investing or active investing. Don't wait until life-changing moment for you to make those decisions. In the past few experiences of mine is sometimes I take too long to make decisions for many things. And sometimes the decision just no longer the cost of waiting actually outweighs the cost of making any decisions. But that's for me personally.
Well, there you go. That's a choice.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience today before we end the call and leave your information?
Yeah, this is a really interesting industry, and it is not for everybody. The irony about real estate, done correctly, is you can really mitigate risk. And so as an active deal sponsor, I have a fiduciary responsibility to all my investors to like minimize the risk that they undertake. Done correctly, but you have to vet who you do business with. You are joining yourself at the hip with a sponsor. Too many people don't really vet the sponsors. So if you do your homework, they should be fine.
Yeah. So what is the best way for the listeners to get in contact with you, Mark?
Oh, yeah. Well, you can hit me up. That email address right above my head. It's either mark@SGRE Investments or info@SGRE Investments. You can go to my website, sgreinvestments.com. And I'm sure there's an email link there. I need to talk to my IT guy about that. But I'm always in front of this box. So hit me up with an email and I generally respond within 2 or 3 minutes. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for your time today and sharing your wisdom and your life story with the
sure, it's
American
my pleasure.
Dream and investor.